The system has to be controlled and managed, based on fair and properly enforced rules, not chaos and exploitation driven by criminal smuggler gangs. We removed 35,000 people with no right to be here, including a 28% increase in returns of failed asylum seekers. We are bringing forward new immigration rules this week to temporarily suspend new applications under the existing dedicated refugee family reunion route.
The UK Home Office has launched a major campaign warning tens of thousands of international students not to overstay their visas. For the first time, officials will directly contact approximately 130,000 students and their families through text messages and emails. The move comes amid what ministers call an alarming spike in students applying for asylum once their visas expire. Messages will warn that asylum claims without substance will be refused, and that those who overstay will face removal. The government says this is part of wider efforts to cut migration and reduce pressure on the asylum system. As part of the crackdown, the post-study work period for graduates has been reduced from 2 years to 18 months. Home Office figures show nearly 16,000 students claimed asylum last year, almost 6 times the number seen in 2020. Although claims have fallen by 10% recently, ministers say much more needs to be done to curb abuse of the system. The University and College Union has condemned the plan, calling it an attack on international students. Union leaders argued that students are vital to Britain's economy and world-class higher education sector. The debate comes as the government faces growing political pressure over immigration and asylum policies. Alongside the student crackdown, ministers are also pledging to reduce small boat crossings and asylum hotel use. The government has temporarily halted new applications under a scheme that lets refugees bring family members to the UK. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said the suspension, which takes effect this week, places refugees under the same rules as other immigrants seeking family reunification. Those rules typically require a minimum income of £29,000, proof of adequate housing, and, in some cases, basic English skills from the family member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With permission, I will update the House on actions that we are taking with France to strengthen our border security and the next steps on our reforms to the asylum system. The House will be aware that when we came into the government, we found an asylum and immigration system in chaos. Small boat gangs for 7 years had been allowed to embed their criminal trade along the French coast. The asylum backlog was soaring and illegal working was being ignored. The previous government had lost control of the system and, as a result, opened many hundreds of asylum hotels across the country, while returns were a third lower than in 2010. And before leaving office, they deliberately cut asylum decision-making by 70%, leaving a steeply rising backlog behind. It is little wonder that people right across the country lost confidence in the system and demanded to know why they were paying the price of a system that was so out of control. But that does not mean that people rejected the long and proud history of Britain doing our bit to help those fleeing persecution or conflict, including in the past decade families from Ukraine, Syria and Hong Kong. Because it is the British way to do our bit alongside other countries to help those who need sanctuary. But the system has to be controlled and managed, based on fair and properly enforced rules, not chaos and exploitation driven by criminal smuggler gangs. And it is exactly because of our important tradition that substantial reforms are needed now. In our first year in government, we've taken immediate action, laying the foundations for more fundamental reform. We have restored asylum decision-making and then rapidly increased the rate of decisions. Had we continued with the previous government's freeze on asylum decisions, thousands more people would have been in hotels and asylum accommodation by now. Instead, we removed 35,000 people with no right to be here, including a 28% increase in returns of failed asylum seekers and a 14% increase in removals of foreign criminals. We've increased raids and arrests on illegal working by 50%, and we cut the annual hotel bill by almost £1 billion in the last financial year. We are rolling out digital ID and biometric kits so immigration enforcement can check on the spot whether someone has a right to work or a right to be in the UK. And on channel crossings and organised immigration crime, we are putting in place new powers, new structures and new international agreements to help dismantle the criminal industry behind the boats. So I want to update the House on the further steps we're now taking. In August, I signed the new treaty with France, allowing us for the first time to directly return those who arrive on small boats. The first detentions took place the next day of people immediately on arrival in Dover, and we expect the first returns to begin later this month. Applications have also been opened for the reciprocal legal route, with the first cases under consideration, subject to strict security checks. We've made clear this is a pilot scheme, but the more we prove the concept at the outset, the better we will be able to develop and grow it. But the principles it embodies are crucial, because no one should be making these dangerous or illegal journeys on small boats, and if they do, we want to see them swiftly returned. But in return, we believe in doing our bit alongside other countries to help those who have fled persecution through managed and controlled legal programmes. This summer, we've also taken further action to strengthen enforcement against smuggling gangs. France has reviewed its maritime approach to allow for the interception of taxi boats in French waters, and we will continue to work with them to implement this change as soon as possible. In the last year, the National Crime Agency has led 347 disruptions of immigration crime networks, their highest level on record, and a 40% increase in a year. Over the summer, we announced a £100 million uplift in funding for border security and up to 300 more personnel in the National Crime Agency focusing on targeting the smuggler gangs. And the border security bill will give them stronger powers, counter-terrorism powers against smuggler gangs, powers to seize and download mobile phones of small boat arrivals, and the power to ban sex offenders from the asylum system altogether. Mr. Speaker, if opposition parties work with us to speed passage through the other place instead of opposing the bill, those powers could be in place within months, making our country safer and more secure.